Hello there. My name is David Oyena. Today we're going to talk about stakeholders and power. Let's start by two things that we're going to talk about, describing the relationship between stakeholders and the types of power, then discuss how these ideas can impact negotiation and conflict. We start by defining stakeholders. According to projectmanager.com, a stakeholder is anyone who has an interest in a project, business, or organization. A stakeholder is an individual group that will be impacted by the outcome of a project. And another thing we need to understand is that stakeholders can influence everything and everyone in a project. This includes senior managers, project leaders, team leaders, customers, users, and many others. So stakeholders do have a considerable amount of influence towards a whole range of people in an organization. These are the types of stakeholders we have. We have the internal stakeholders and the external stakeholders. So, but by and large, stakeholders are both inside the organization and could also be outside the organization, and a considerable number or categories of stakeholders can be singled out. Power. We define power. Max Weber defined power as the probability that one actor within a social relationship will be in a position to carry out his or her own will despite resistance. So that is the definition of power. Next, we look at the bases of power or types of power according to French and Raven. First, we have the referent power. This is an influence through personality or characteristics or reputation of the person. When I look up to someone's personality or certain qualities, and they have referent power over me. Then we have expert power. When somebody possesses special knowledge or relevant expertise in a particular area, they will be able to use expert power. Then we have legitimate power when someone has a right to exert power in a certain domain. We also have reward power, where someone is able to exercise power because they have the ability to reward. Then lastly, we have coercive power, which is based on fear, and majorly it's about force. So what's the relationship between stakeholders and these types of power? One thing we should know is that the types of power do vary depending on each type of stakeholder. For instance, we have managers, company owners, and regulatory bodies like the government. These groups of stakeholders can very easily use coercive power or legitimate power effectively, whereas employees might not have this option. So power and power types do vary depending on the stakeholders. On the other side, employees can facilitate the use of referent power, most especially when they look up to managers or certain people within an organization, and they respect them for who they are. These people can easily, employees can easily facilitate the use of referent power. And also some stakeholders as well, who are looked up to, can very easily use this kind of power. Lastly, depending the impact of negotiation on the impact on negotiation and conflict, the impact of power and stakeholders on these two things, negotiation and conflict. So overly depending on coercive power, most especially when it comes to conflict resolution, might leave one party discontent. So it's very important to not overly depend on this kind of power that forces people to accept certain decisions that they are not necessarily that is not necessarily good for them. So this can easily lead to discontent, and this might also sow seeds for future conflict. Other types of power, like referent power, legitimate power, may make decisions easily acceptable during negotiations and conflict. So these two things really stand out when it comes to the impact of power and stakeholders on negotiation and conflict. These are the references. Thank you very much. God bless you.